For years, I walked into every meeting with a knot in my stomach. I carried a silent, heavy fear, the fear of being found out. I was convinced that at any moment someone would stand up, point a finger, and declare, "She doesn't belong here." This feeling followed me from the boardroom, to the classroom, to keynote stages, to quiet conversations over coffee. It was a persistent hum beneath the surface of my professional life, a voice whispering that all my accomplishments were a fluke, a result of luck or timing, never of my own merit. It told me I was a fraud, an imposter who had somehow slipped through the cracks. It was exhausting. This experience, which I now know as imposter syndrome, is not about a lack of confidence. It's about a deep-seated belief that we are fundamentally unworthy of our success. It's a self-imposed prison of our own making. For me, the seeds of imposter syndrome were planted early, but they truly began to sprout when I stepped into a new professional world. I had just accepted a tenure-track position at a university. I was surrounded by brilliant minds, people whose work I had cited and admired from afar. Suddenly, they were my colleagues. The halls were filled with conversations that felt miles above my head. Every question I didn't know the answer to felt like a glaring spotlight on my inadequacy. The more I tried to fit in, the more I felt like an outsider, wearing a costume that didn't quite fit. The feeling mushroomed with every new challenge. That first big promotion was a significant trigger. Instead of feeling validated, I felt like the pressure had been amplified tenfold. The promotion meant more responsibility, more visibility, more opportunities to fail spectacularly. I believed they had promoted the idea of me, not the real me. The gap between my perceived self and my new title felt like a chasm. I started working longer hours, driven not by passion, but by a desperate need to prove I was worthy. My response to the relentless fear of being found out was to work, and then to work some more. I became a machine of productivity, fueled by anxiety. I was the first to arrive and the last to leave. I volunteered for extra committees. I took on projects no one else wanted. I believed that if I could just outwork everyone, my sheer effort would camouflage my perceived lack of talent. If my reports were twice as long, and my research was twice as detailed, maybe no one would notice that I felt like I was making it all up as I went along. This relentless hustle wasn't about ambition. It was a defense mechanism. It was armor. This armor, however, was incredibly heavy. It came at a steep price. While I was busy building a fortress of over-preparation, I was missing out on life. I said no to spontaneous opportunities for connection and collaboration, because they felt too risky, too unscripted. The high cost of hiding wasn't just burnout, it was a profound sense of loneliness and emptiness. I had built a successful career that felt completely inauthentic to who I was. There wasn't a single dramatic lightning strike moment, but rather a slow, dawning awareness. It was like sitting in a dimly lit room for years and then, one day, someone slowly turns up the dimmer switch. The turning point for me came during a period of intense burnout. I had just wrapped up a massive project, one that I had poured every ounce of my energy into. I had worked weekends, late nights for months. We received incredible feedback. My team was celebrating. But I felt nothing. No pride, no relief, just a profound, bone-deep exhaustion and a familiar, nagging dread about what was next. That evening, I was supposed to go to a dinner celebrating our success. I couldn't bring myself to go. The thought of having to perform gratitude and accept praise felt like an impossible task. I just wanted to be invisible. As I sat alone in my office, the silence was deafening. I realized I had been running a marathon, but I had no idea why I was running or where the finish line was. The praise I received didn't feel like a reward. It felt like a trap, setting an even higher bar for the next performance. That was the moment I finally admitted to myself, this is not working. The awareness hit me hard. The feeling was real, but it wasn't the truth. The lights were on, and I could finally see the path forward. My journey toward healing began not with a grand gesture, but with a small, quiet act of courage. I started writing things down. I got a simple journal and created a done list. At the end of each day, instead of focusing on my never-ending to-do list, I wrote down everything I had accomplished. No win was too small. Responded to a difficult email. Shared an idea in a meeting. This simple practice began to rewire my brain. It forced me to acknowledge my effort and my contributions. Next, I reached out for help. This was terrifying. It required a level of vulnerability I had spent years avoiding. I sought out a mentor, a senior colleague I respected for her wisdom and kindness. In one of our first conversations, I stumbled through an admission of my fears, my voice shaky. She didn't laugh or look shocked. She just nodded and said, "Me too, almost every day." That moment was a lifeline. Sharing my worries with trusted friends and peers became another essential tool. Saying the words, "I feel like a fraud" out loud stripped them of their power. When a friend would respond, "I get that, I feel that way too," it was like a weightlifting. Finally, I learned the importance of celebrating small wins, not just listing them, but truly allowing myself to feel them. It would be a lie to say that the feelings of being an imposter have vanished completely. They haven't. There are still days, especially when I'm facing a new challenge, stepping onto a bigger stage, when that old, familiar ghost shows up. The whisper returns. "Who do you think you are? You're not ready for this." The difference is that now, I recognize the voice. I don't mistake it for the truth. I see it for what it is. A familiar visitor, a shadow of past fears. The ghost is in the house, but it no longer holds the deed. Healing from imposter syndrome isn't about banishing self-doubt forever. That's an unrealistic and, frankly, unhelpful goal. A little bit of doubt can keep us humble and motivated. Healing is about changing our relationship with that doubt. It's about not letting it sit in the driver's seat. When the feeling arises, I now have the tools to manage it. I can open my journal. I can call a trusted friend. I can look at my done list. I can remind myself of the evidence. I can say to the feeling, "I see you, I hear you, but I'm going to do this anyway." The goal is not perfection. It is courage. The real victory is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act in spite of it. I'd love to hear about your own journey with this. What has your experience been? What tools have helped you? Let's continue this conversation in the comments below, together.